Turbulent meeting. Mira Khatri clutched her camera bag to her chest as the shuttle to Nova Station shuddered through another patch of solar turbulence. Her knuckles had turned white 20 minutes ago, and no amount of deep breathing was helping. The view screen beside her seat displayed their trajectory, a terrifying arc from Earth's atmosphere into the black emptiness of space. She'd never left Earth before. Never wanted to. But when the Galactic Conservation Initiative offered her the chance to document the endangered species of Proxima b, she couldn't refuse. It was the opportunity of a lifetime for a wildlife photographer whose work had been limited to Earth's recovering ecosystems. "First time off-world?" asked a calm voice beside her. Mira turned to see her seatmate watching her with gentle amusement. She hadn't paid much attention to him when boarding, too focused on her anxiety. But now she noticed striking amber eyes that seemed to catch the soft blue light of the cabin. He wore simple dark clothing, nothing that indicated corporate or government affiliation, and his relaxed posture suggested he made this journey regularly. "Is it that obvious?" she managed, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. "The white knuckles are a bit of a giveaway," he said, his voice carrying a slight accent she couldn't place. "I'm Arlen." "Mira," she replied, then gasped as the shuttle lurched sideways. The captain's voice came over the comm system. "Passengers, we're entering an unexpected radiation field. Please remain seated with restraints secured. This may get a bit rough." Bit rough proved to be a massive understatement. The shuttle began to shake violently and warning lights flickered across the cabin. Mira felt her breath coming in short, panicked gasps as her worst fears materialized around her. "We're going to die in space," she whispered, squeezing her eyes shut. "My mother always said space travel would kill me." "We're not going to die," Arlen said with such certainty that her eyes flew open. "This is standard solar activity. The shields will adjust." Another violent shake sent someone's tablet flying down the aisle. "Standard?" Mira squeaked, unconsciously grabbing Arlen's forearm. "This feels like the opposite of standard." "Focus on something else," he suggested, making no move to reclaim his arm from her death grip. "Tell me about where you're going. What brings you to Nova?" The simple question opened a floodgate. When Mira was scared, she talked. And right now she was terrified. "I'm a wildlife photographer," she began, words tumbling out between shallow breaths. "The Galactic Conservation Initiative hired me to document the endangered species on Proxima b. Lunar moths and crystalline foxes mainly. They're bioluminescent in the planet's twilight zone, and they're nearly extinct because of habitat destruction." The shuttle rocked again, and Mira's grip tightened. "I've never even left Earth. And now I'll be working in the most remote conservation area in the settled systems, under Director Reed, who everyone says is a complete nightmare to work with." Arlen's eyebrow quirked upward. "Director Reed?" "Kieran Reed," Mira confirmed, too caught in her anxiety spiral to notice his reaction. "The head of the initiative. Supposedly brilliant but impossible. My friend Sasha worked with him last year and said he's cold, demanding, and completely heartless when it comes to both wildlife and people." Arlen's expression remained neutral. "Really?" Heartless seemed strong. "Apparently he fired 3 senior researchers on his first day at the Titan project. And he's known for these impossible standards that no one can meet." Mira was rambling now, her fear of the turbulence channeling into nervous chatter. "Sasha said he never smiles, never acknowledges good work, and treats everyone like they're expendable. A real Ice King." "Interesting perspective," Arlen murmured. "I'm terrified of him, honestly. Almost as terrified as I am of this shuttle falling apart." As if on cue, the vessel shook violently. "Oh God." Arlen gently extracted his arm from her grip, but only to place his hand over hers on the armrest. "The shuttle is designed to withstand much worse. And as for Director Reed, perhaps he has reasons for his methods." "Everyone has reasons," Mira said, drawing strength from the warm pressure of his hand. "But treating people badly isn't justified by being brilliant or important." A small smile played at the corner of Arlen's mouth. "That's fair. What would you do differently if you were in his position?" The question surprisingly distracted her from the continuing turbulence. "I'd remember that everyone on the team is there because they care about conservation. They're not just tools to achieve a goal. They're people with unique perspectives that could make the work better." "That's insightful," Arlen said, studying her with new interest. For the next 30 minutes, as the shuttle fought its way through the radiation field, Arlen kept Mira talking about her photography, her previous wildlife work in India's reclaimed forests, and her hopes for the Proxima project. Somehow he knew exactly which questions would engage her passion rather than her fear. By the time the captain announced they were clear of danger, Mira realized she had spent the last 10 minutes completely forgetting to be terrified. She also realized she was still holding Arlen's hand, her fingers now intertwined with his. "I'm so sorry," she said, withdrawing her hand with embarrassment, "and sorry about the death grip on your arm earlier. I probably left marks." "Worth it," he said with that same enigmatic smile. "You have a unique perspective, Mira Khatri. I think your work on Proxima will be valuable." "How did you know my last name?" she asked, suddenly realizing she hadn't given it. The shuttle announcement system chimed before he could answer. "Preparing for docking with Nova Station. All passengers please secure personal items." Arlen glanced at his wristcom, which had lit up with multiple messages. "I have to prepare for a meeting. It was a pleasure meeting you, Mira. I think your time at the initiative will be illuminating." The docking process was smoother than Mira expected, and by the time she gathered her bags, Arlen had disappeared among the disembarking passengers. She felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. There had been something compelling about those amber eyes, about the attentive way he had listened to her nervous ramblings. Stepping onto Nova Station for the first time was overwhelming. The vast central hub rose hundreds of meters above her, levels upon levels of walkways and transparent elevators carrying people from all over the settled systems. Holographic signs directed various species to appropriate atmospheric zones and gravity adjustments. Mira checked her orientation guide. She was to report to the initiative's headquarters in the science sector for her official briefing with Director Reed's staff. Then she would have 24 hours to acclimate before departing for Proxima. Following the guide's directions, she found herself in a sleek modern office with walls displaying spectacular imagery of endangered species from across the galaxy. A harried assistant looked up from a holographic display as she entered. "You must be Khatri," they said. "You're just in time. Director Reed returned from Earth earlier than expected and wants to meet all new project members personally." Mira's stomach dropped. "Now? I thought I'd be meeting with the team first." "Change of plans. The director is very hands-on." The assistant gave her a sympathetic look. "Through those doors. Good luck." Heart-pounding, Mira stepped through the indicated doorway into a spacious office dominated by a wall of stars. A tall figure stood silhouetted against the cosmic backdrop, studying data displays that hovered in the air before him. "Director Reed?" Mira called, her voice smaller than she intended. "I'm Mira Khatri, the wildlife photographer assigned to the Proxima project." The figure turned, and familiar amber eyes met hers. "Hello again, Mira." "Arlen." "No." "Director Kieran Reed," said with that same small smile she'd seen on the shuttle. "I believe you were telling me how heartless and impossible I am to work with." "Please continue. I find your honesty refreshing." Mira felt the blood drain from her face as the realization hit her. She had spent 2 hours insulting her new boss directly to his face. Professional collision. Mira's horrified silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Director Reed, I had no idea," she stammered, face burning. "Clearly," he replied, amusement dancing in his amber eyes. "And please call me Kieran. I've already been called heartless and impossible by you. Formality seems unnecessary." "Are you firing me?" Mira asked bluntly, clutching her camera bag. "Fire the photographer who believes conservation teams should be valued for their unique perspectives? That would rather confirm your opinion of me, wouldn't it?" Kieran gestured toward a chair. "I actually found your honesty refreshing. Most people tell me what they think I want to hear." As Mira cautiously sat, Kieran brought up holographic displays of her previous work, stunning images of Bengal tigers in reclaimed forests, desert blooms after monsoon restoration, bioluminescent coral reefs. "Your work speaks to something beyond technical skill," he observed. "You capture the soul of ecosystems." "That's what I hope to bring to Proxima," Mira said, regaining composure. "If I'm still going, you're going. In fact, I'll be accompanying your team." His expression grew serious. "The crystalline fox population has declined by 60% in 3 months. We need your images to secure additional protection zones." By the time their meeting concluded, Mira felt intellectual whiplash. The Ice King reputation seemed completely at odds with the man before her, whose passion for conservation matched her own. Yet there was an intensity about him, a demanding precision that hinted at why others found him difficult. The question remained, which was the real Kieran Reed? The attentive man from the shuttle or the demanding director with impossible standards? Field research, the research outpost on Proxima B, was beautiful but austere, a series of interconnected domes nestled into a valley where crystalline vegetation glittered in the perpetual twilight of the tidally locked planet. Their first week was a blur of equipment setup, preliminary surveys, and team briefings. Kieran worked with tireless focus, pushing himself and others toward increasingly challenging goals. Mira observed how younger researchers trembled when he questioned their methodologies. Yet she also noticed how he adapted his approach when he saw genuine effort, becoming less demanding but no less exacting. "He's different with you," commented Dr. Sato, the team's biologist, as they calibrated sensors. "Less glacial." Mira shrugged, unwilling to reveal their unusual meeting. "Maybe he just likes photographers." Their breakthrough came unexpectedly. Tracking data suggested a major lunar moth migration would pass through the crystal forest that night. These rare creatures with 10-foot wingspans and bioluminescent patterns had never been properly documented. "We need to go tonight," Kieran announced. "Katri, your equipment ready?" Hours later, they hiked alone through terrain that seemed crafted from living glass, each crystal formation refracting the distant starlight. "Stay close," Kieran warned. "The ecosystem here is delicate and deceptive." When the ground began to rumble, Mira initially thought she'd misstepped. Then she saw Kieran's alarmed expression. "Meteor shower," he said urgently, scanning the horizon. "We need shelter now." They ran as the first impacts began, crystal formations shattering around them. Kieran spotted a cave entrance and pulled Mira inside, just as a massive fragment struck where they'd been standing. The cave's interior glowed with soft blue bioluminescence, revealing a sanctuary untouched by outside forces. They were safe but trapped until the shower passed. "Are you hurt?" Kieran asked, his usual composure replaced with genuine concern as he checked her for injuries. His touch gentle on her arm. "I'm fine," she assured him, suddenly aware of their isolation and proximity. "Why do you do that?" "Do what?" "Switch between caring person and demanding director so easily." Kieran was quiet for a long moment before responding. 6 years ago, I led a conservation team on Europa. I was young, idealistic, believed everyone cared as much as I did. His voice grew distant. I wasn't demanding enough. Didn't verify protocols myself. Trusted too easily. "What happened?" Mira asked softly. "Equipment failure. Preventable. 3 team members died, including my fiancée." His amber eyes reflected the cave's blue light. "I became the Ice King because being liked isn't worth risking lives or extinctions." The vulnerability in his confession moved something in Mira. Without thinking, she touched his face, her thumb brushing his cheekbone. "Being demanding doesn't have to mean being distant," she whispered. Neither could say who moved first, but suddenly they were kissing, tentatively at first, then with growing urgency. His arms encircled her waist, pulling her against him as her fingers tangled in his hair. When they finally broke apart, breathless, the cave around them seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as Mira's heartbeat. "This complicates things," Kieran said, his forehead resting against hers. Mira smiled. "I specialize in capturing complicated things." Hours later, they hiked alone through terrain that seemed crafted from living glass, each crystal formation refracting the distant starlight. "Stay close," Kieran warned. "The ecosystem here is delicate and deceptive." When the ground began to rumble, Mira initially thought she'd misstepped. Then she saw Kieran's alarmed expression. "Meteor shower," he said urgently, scanning the horizon. "We need shelter, now." They ran as the first impacts began, crystal formations shattering around them. Kieran spotted a cave entrance and pulled Mira inside just as a massive fragment struck where they'd been standing. The cave's interior glowed with soft blue bioluminescence, revealing a sanctuary untouched by outside forces. They were safe but trapped until the shower passed. "Are you hurt?" Kieran asked, his usual composure replaced with genuine concern as he checked her for injuries, his touch gentle on her arm. "I'm fine," she assured him, suddenly aware of their isolation and proximity. "Why do you do that?" "Do what?" "Switch between caring person and demanding director so easily." Kieran was quiet for a long moment before responding. 6 years ago, I led a conservation team on Europa. I was young, idealistic, believed everyone cared as much as I did. His voice grew distant. I wasn't demanding enough. Didn't verify protocols myself. Trusted too easily. What happened? Mira asked softly. Equipment failure, preventable. 3 team members died, including my fiancé. His amber eyes reflected the cave's blue light. I became the Ice King because being liked isn't worth risking lives or extinctions. The vulnerability in his confession moved something in Mira. Without thinking, she touched his face, her thumb brushing his cheekbone. Being demanding doesn't have to mean being distant, she whispered. Neither could say who moved first, but suddenly they were kissing, tentatively at first, then with growing urgency. His arms encircled her waist, pulling her against him as her fingers tangled in his hair. When they finally broke apart, breathless, the cave around them seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as Mira's heartbeat. This complicates things, Kieran said, his forehead resting against hers. Mira smiled. I specialize in capturing complicated things. Part 4. Ecological Crisis. They returned to base with extraordinary footage of lunar moths sheltering in the cave alongside them. But their triumph was short-lived. Environmental alerts began triggering throughout the conservation zone. Toxicity levels rising, crystalline formations degrading. Kieran transformed before the team, his voice sharp as he demanded explanations, assigned emergency protocols, and contacted Nova Station for support. The attentive man from the cave vanished behind the director's mask. He's reverting to type, Dr. Sato muttered as Kieran ordered evacuation of non-essential personnel. He's trying to save the ecosystem, Mira defended, though privately she felt the sting of his sudden emotional distance. Reviewing her footage that night, Mira noticed something strange, an unnatural shimmer in the crystalline structures near the corporate mining boundary. Magnifying the images revealed microscopic drilling drones, technically outside the conservation zone, but releasing particulates that drifted into protected areas. It's Galaxman Corporation, she told Kieran, showing him the evidence. They're circumventing regulations with these microdrones. His face hardened. Clever but illegal. Unfortunately, we need more definitive proof before the Interplanetary Conservation Commission will act. I could get closer. Document the source directly. Absolutely not, Kieran said sharply. It's too dangerous. Their first real argument erupted, Mira insisting her skills made her the ideal person for the mission, Kieran refusing to risk her safety. They separated that night with tension thick between them, professional and personal boundaries hopelessly entangled. Before dawn, Mira made her decision. Leaving a brief message, she took her equipment and a small exploration vehicle toward the boundary zone. What she discovered exceeded her worst fears. A massive hidden operation using the microdrones to extract valuable crystal formations, while technically remaining outside conservation boundaries. As she documented everything, a security alarm triggered. Fleeing back toward the research outpost with security drones in pursuit, Mira realized she'd underestimated the danger. Just as her vehicle began failing under their attacks, another transport appeared, intercepting the drones with electromagnetic pulses. Kieran. You're the most infuriating, brilliant person I've ever met, he said as she transferred to his vehicle. And if you ever endanger yourself like that again, you'll fire me? Mira challenged. His grip tightened on the controls. I'll never forgive myself. Asservation of hearts. 3 weeks later, Mira stood on Nova Station's grand observation deck, watching as new conservation buoys were deployed around an expanded Proxima protection zone. Her photographs had done more than provide evidence against Galaxmen. They had captured public imagination, generating unprecedented support for the initiative's work. Crystalline fox populations were already showing signs of recovery. The lunar moths had completed their migration cycle successfully, and Kieran Reed was being celebrated as a conservation hero, though he consistently redirected credit to the team. There you are. His voice came from behind her. The Chancellor wants to offer you a permanent position with the initiative. Mira turned to face him. And what does the director want? Since their return, they'd maintained professional distance, the intensity of their cave encounter and subsequent conflict unaddressed amid the chaos of hearings and media attention. The director, Kieran said carefully, Thinks mixing personal and professional relationships is complicated. And the man? The one I met on a shuttle who held my hand during turbulence? Kieran moved closer, his amber eyes serious. He hasn't stopped thinking about you, about how you see the world and how you saw through him. I judged you unfairly, Mira admitted. Before I knew you. You weren't entirely wrong. His lips quirked in a half-smile. I was hiding behind protocols and distance. Your perspective changed that. Changed me. Below them, the first shimmers of the lunar moth migration became visible across Proxima's surface, a river of bioluminescence against the twilight landscape. I don't need to work for you to work with you, Mira suggested. The initiative could contract my services for specific projects, maintaining professional boundaries while exploring personal ones. Kieran's expression softened as he reached for her hand. A logical solution. I find that balance is essential in delicate ecosystems, Mira replied, interlacing her fingers with his. As they watched the lunar moth's journey continue below, creatures that survived against all odds in a fragile, beautiful balance, Kieran gently pulled Mira closer. Perhaps, he murmured against her hair, the most important conservation project is learning how to preserve what matters while still allowing for growth and change. Mira smiled, leaning into him as the stars continued their eternal watch over the unlikely sanctuary they had helped protect. A fitting backdrop to their own unexpected beginning.